y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bohdan if you are new here, and if you are not new here, then welcome back to the clique. So in this video we are going to be talking about Love is Blind season 7, and y'all, this season it's a hot love bombing mess, okay? And I was just like, I want to do a video kind of coming from the counselor therapist perspective about how I feel about these different couples and the dynamics between the different personality types that are displayed on this TV show. So while we talk, I'm just going to do this little wash and go. Y'all, it is like 11 p.m. here. I washed my hair late. I had to work today. It was a lot going on. But we're just going to do a quick little wash and go. I'll be using 2 products. My Bounce Curl Defining Butter. And of course my Uncle Funky's Daughter Curly Magic Gel. Best gel in the world. We are not going to go episode by episode. I'm going to do it more like couple by couple. So of course we start out in the pods and we're kind of just getting to know all the different potential couples. We really only see a few of them, and you can kind of tell which couples they're going to focus on throughout the show. And the first 2 people that they kind of show a lot is Hannah and Nick. Okay, so for Nick, first impressions, I was just like, this boy is doing way too much. He was overly flirtatious, and just you could tell he was trying to make himself seem like he was just that dude. And all the girls just kept saying that he was such a smooth talker, which was valid. And it just did not come off genuine. You can tell he was trying to give off the playboy vibe, and he honestly was not pulling it off very well. He keeps talking about how he used to play football and how he wanted to go to the NFL, but he didn't make it. So he played for like the CFL, XFL, something like that. But you could tell he's trying to impress the girls with this little football fact. And he is a kicker. None of the girls are really feeling him except one, and that is Hannah. So Hannah, right off the bat, I could tell was pretty insecure, especially about her weight. She brought up her weight several times, and you can tell that it was something that she was very self-conscious about. She talked about how she was a cheerleader in high school and how she was like dating a quarterback. So she and Nick kind of have the whole football thing in common. And she and Nick seem to really hit it off. Now, none of the other girls like Nick. So when Hannah goes back in the pods, she's pretty much just like the only one that's feeling him. All the other girls are like, girl, what do you see in him? Like, we're not seeing it at all. And it does make her end up kind of second guessing it, but she, keeps going along with it because she likes him. And so as they go on more dates in the pods, she starts to just ask him like straight up, like, okay, why are you here? Like, are you just trying to play me? Like, I don't want to get hurt. And this is where that insecurity that I spoke about earlier really starts to show. And even as early on as the pods, you can tell that she's self-sabotaging. She's going out of her way to kind of convince herself that he doesn't actually like her and that he's going to end up hurting her. And it's just because of that low self-esteem. She talks about how she feels like he only likes her because he thinks she looks like a Victoria's Secret model. And she's like, I don't look like that. You're always talking about my body and you can't wait to see me in swimsuits and all this. And I don't want you to be disappointed, essentially is what it is. She's very afraid that whenever they see each other for the very first time, he's not going to like what he sees because she's insecure about how she looks. So during this whole time, she's also talking to this guy, Leo. Now, Leo is a whole character. He says that he's like an art dealer, and that's pretty much all he talks about. Every girl that he talks to, he brings up that he's an art dealer and how his family owned the art dealing business and they all passed away, which led to him acquiring the business at an early age. And it's very odd when he's speaking about this because he doesn't seem sad. He doesn't seem, I don't know, he seems almost like indifferent about the fact that he's telling actually a very sad story. He's just very like, oh yeah, I just basically came up on some money because my family all died and I ended up getting the business. And it's just like, that's odd. Leo talks about his money incessantly. Not only to the girls, but even when he's in the little like men's quarters or whatever. He brings up his money so much. But yet he says things like, oh, well, I don't want a girl that only wants me for my money. Like, how can you say that if all you bring up is your money? And similar to Hannah, he also gives insecure vibes. And the reason why I say that is because he feels the need to lead with how much money he has. And even though he talks like he doesn't want people to like him for that or talk to him for that, you can tell that he leads with it because it does attract girls or attract friends. And I would not be surprised if Leo grew up not having a lot of friends or not being very popular, or the girls didn't really like him. And then once he was able to get some money, girls would start giving him the time of day. So even if it's not intentional, he has learned that flaunting what you have is a way to get attention from other people, especially women. So Hannah, she likes Leo, but she's not very like moved by his money. She honestly doesn't even care. And he just says stuff like, oh yeah, like, I like that you're not like other girls. I like that you don't care about my money for real. So weird. Now, Brittany, on the other hand, is the type of girl that would go for a guy with money. So she's a blonde woman, and she comes on and she's like, yeah, I've dated a lot of rock stars and athletes. You know, that's kind of who I'm used to being with, but now I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to find my husband. And it's like, oh, they're definitely about to put her with Leo, so we can see how this is going to go. And I mean, it kind of went how you would think it would go. She does like Leo, and Leo does like her. And to be honest, I think she mainly likes Leo because he does talk about his money quite a bit. She makes it pretty clear throughout their dates that she is used to a certain lifestyle. She is used to being taken care of. And again, even though he acts like he doesn't want a woman that only wants him for his money, he seems to be fine with the idea of essentially taking care of her. In fact, I think it's really attractive to him to feel like a woman needs him, and to feel like she's going to be the woman that stays home and cooks and cleans and takes care of the kids, the very traditional wife. He seems like he likes that idea, and she kind of capitalizes off it. She talks about it a lot, about how, you know, she would be fine with being a housewife, essentially, and having him take care of her. And Brittany also does this thing where she purposely tries to act like she's not very smart. And I think this is also a way to make others around her feel disarmed or kind of feel like she's that damsel in distress. And I think she thinks that it's cute. And Leo, funny enough, picks up on it. And he starts saying stuff like, yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably don't think that you're very smart, but I can tell that you're very smart. And I'm like, I don't feel like that's really a compliment. But he definitely picks up on the fact that she acts a little ditzy. However, Brittany is not dumb. She knows exactly what she's doing. And she can tell that Leo is insecure. And I really think that she is doing her best to try to make him feel like the man in the relationship. Make him feel like he's needed and wanted so that she can sit back and play the trophy wife, at-home mom role in the relationship. So we have this little triangle kind of going on where Hannah likes Nick, but she also likes Leo. And then Leo likes Hannah, but he also likes Brittany. So eventually, Hannah starts hearing more from the other girls about Nick and how he's a player and how they feel like he's not good for her. And I feel like all of the girls are a little bit worried about Hannah. She's one of the younger girls on the show, and all of the other women are a little bit older than her, and I feel like they just think maybe she's being a little bit naive with the Nick situation. And ultimately, she kind of falls victim to the peer pressure. And even though she likes Nick, I think, more than she likes Leo, she ends up breaking it off with Nick. And he's, pretty sad about it. And he basically is like, well, I have no reason to really be here anymore because you were the only girl that I was talking to. But he actually doesn't end up leaving. And as Hannah is kind of still talking to him and talking to Leo, she realizes that she does really like Nick. And so she kind of goes to get him back, so to speak. She tells Nick, like, hey, I'm sorry that I dumped you. I just kind of felt like you were probably going to dump me, and I wanted to beat you to it. So again, y'all, she is screaming insecure. She doesn't really think that Nick will really accept her. She doesn't really think that Nick is going to like her. And so she essentially is self-sabotaging the situation. And it's that situation where it's like, well, if I hurt them before they hurt me, then that's great. And a lot of that insecurity stems from a fear of rejection. I don't know a whole lot about Hannah's past, but it seems like she has some issues with not being chosen or being overlooked, being rejected. And that is a feeling that she is desperately running from. She likes Nick, but she just feels like there's no way that he's going to actually like her or actually stick around with her. Even though he showed her multiple times that he did like her and that he wasn't actually going anywhere. She keeps asking him things like, well, what if you don't like what you see? What if I'm not what you expected? And he's just constantly trying to reassure her, telling her, no matter what, like, you're beautiful. I love the inside of you. I love your personality. Like, I'm not even worried about the outside. But you can tell that this is hard for her to really believe and accept. So she's also still talking to Leo at the same time. And Leo is letting her know that he does have a strong connection with her and Brittany, but Hannah doesn't care that much, and I think it's because she honestly does have a stronger connection to Nick anyway, but we still kind of have these little love triangles going on. So meanwhile, Brittany only likes Leo. But Leo is also telling her that he does have a connection with Hannah as well. Brittany, unlike Hannah, does not take this very well. She's very overwhelmed by this. She says that it brings up trauma from her past where she was dating these very popular men and they could basically have any woman that they wanted. And it made her feel very insecure. It made her feel like she wasn't chosen and wasn't going to be chosen. So you can kind of see how Hannah and Brittany both have insecurity, but it stems from slightly different places. But yet it's still manifesting as that fear of rejection, fear of the person choosing someone else over them. It all goes back to that low self-esteem that they have regarding relationships with men. And at this point, Leo is just stringing both her and Hannah along. He is just a mess. Like, he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know who he wants. He's telling both of them the same type of stuff, making it seem like he really likes both of them. Depending on who he's talking to, that's who he likes the most at the moment. And eventually Brittany just kind of like puts her foot down and she's like, this is ridiculous. You are going to have to choose somebody and it's not even just your decision. Like, I can just leave. Like, I can make that decision. And this is when he kind of starts to panic a little bit because I think he realizes that he's kind of losing his footing. And so he starts really laying it on thick with how he feels about her and asking her about her ring and what kind of ring she would like. And she's like, I don't want to talk about this if you're also talking about this with Hannah. And he literally admits that, yeah, like, I'm talking about the same stuff with Hannah, which is so stupid. Like, I honestly feel like Leo is trying to make them jealous on purpose. And again, it's because he's not really used to having a whole lot of attention. He's not used to being the guy that girls fight over or the desired guy, so to speak. And he's just milking the situation, essentially. Now, Hannah, you know, she has her other option, Nick. And she's sick of Leo. And she doesn't really want him anyway. She goes into the pause with Leo. And she basically tells him, like, yeah, I'm going to be with Nick. Nick poured his heart out to me. And I feel like he's genuine in how he feels. And he's the one that I'm going to choose. And Leo just has a full-blown meltdown about it, y'all. Like, and you can tell it was just, he felt like he was losing. He liked having these two girls and having options. And now that one of the girls took herself off the table, he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the thought of being beat by another man. And so he just goes real left and just says, what if I propose to you right now? Like, what would you do? What would you do? Just don't do this. Like, I was trying to make my mind up, but I just needed a little bit more time. Like, he's just going off. And it was very manipulative. And Hannah is like in tears because he's making her feel cornered. He's making her feel like she has to make a decision right now. He's pressuring her, yelling. I mean, it was very much over the top. But luckily, Hannah was able to realize that she was being manipulated and gaslighted in the moment. And she did not give in. And she still ended up choosing Nick. So now Leo's only choice is Brittany. And Brittany pretty much knows that she's like the second choice, essentially, because Hannah literally went into the girls' quarters and told all the girls exactly what happened. But I feel like Brittany was just so like wanting to play this experience out that even though she knew she probably should run, she accepted Leo's proposal anyway. And I think she was kind of just hoping for the best. And Nick and Hannah end up getting engaged. So we end up having Nick and Hannah engaged, and then we have Leo and Brittany engaged. Now, when they do these little meetups, so if you've never seen Love is Blind, they start out in the pods, they can't see each other. They get engaged in the pods, still can't see each other. And then they have the big reveal where they see each other for the very first time. And a lot of these interactions, especially this season, were very awkward and cringy, y'all. I was just like secondhand embarrassment all the way around. So we could start with Hannah and Nick. Hannah and Nick meet up. And you can just immediately tell that Hannah was very disappointed. She immediately brings up how she's taller than him. And she's like, wait, how tall did you say you were? And he's like, I'm 5'11". And she's like, it's not giving 5'11". Now, I don't know how tall Nick actually is, but he didn't read very tall on screen. And I could tell that Hannah was pretty tall, and she did have heels on. So that might have made a difference as well. But overall, Hannah is she's a little disappointed in how Nick looks. She says, in her little confessional that she feels like he kind of misled her about how he looked. She said he described himself as like, medium build, 5'11", football player. And that's not what she's seeing right now. However, I'm like, well, girl, he said he was a kicker. Like, kickers are never very big. They're smaller. And so I don't know if she was just like hearing what she wanted to hear or what it was. But I mean, he looked like he was like in shape. But I don't know if she just thought he would be like stockier and bigger because he said he was a football player. But literally, he told her he was a kicker. So I feel like that part is kind of on her. She says that she feels uncomfortable when she's bigger than the man that she's dating. So again, more of this insecurity coming out. So now we're finding out that, not only is her weight a source of her insecurity, but also her height as well. And you can tell that she's struggling with getting to a place where she's confident in her height and how she looks, but yet at the same time, she still has a lot of those insecure feelings. So she kind of jokes about, I almost didn't wear heels, but, I was like, forget it. I'm gonna wear heels. I want to wear heels, so I'm gonna wear heels. And Nick is fine with it. Like, he jokes back with her and he's like, yeah, I love the heels. Like, I would have wanted you to wear heels. So he's not bothered by her height at all. But yet she keeps talking about it. And she talks about how a lot of times guys are intimidated by women that are bigger than them or they feel emasculated. But I did not get those vibes from Nick. I felt like he came off fairly confident and comfortable in his own skin. Okay, so Leo and Brittany meet up. And it's like also very, very awkward and cringy. You can immediately tell that Brittany is not feeling Leo at all. She barely wants to kiss him. It's very awkward. He keeps like grabbing the back of her neck in this weird, like, I don't know, like possessive type of way almost. And it's like, okay, sir, like, I know we just got engaged on this TV show, but you do know that I don't know you, right? Like, you are a complete stranger and you're doing the most. He keeps saying how beautiful and hot she is. I mean, you can tell like he was very attracted to her. And she is just like, thanks. Yeah, I know I am. Like, I knew you were going to say that. But she does not compliment him. He even asks at one time, like, how do you feel about me? And she's just like, I don't know. This is just a lot of pressure. Like, she was not comfortable at all. She was literally leaning away from him. I'm not a body language expert, y'all, but I can tell when somebody is uncomfortable, and she looked highly, highly uncomfortable. And I feel like the weirdest part of the interaction was that it seemed like Leo did not notice that she was uncomfortable. It's like he had no awareness about what was going on. Like, it was so tangible that she was not comfortable, but yet he wasn't doing anything different. So she's talking in the confessional, and she's just like, it's not clicking that this man is actually my fiance. Like, there's a disconnect there. And she's just like, oh my God, what have I done? And then we got this little pop-up on the screen that basically said, like, Leo and Brittany were not chosen as one of the 6 couples to go to Mexico. They decided to take their own honeymoon trip, and they broke off their engagement weeks later. And I'm just like, oh wow, that was new. They don't usually give us the little what happened to them. But I think it was because like they had shown this couple so much, and they felt like they had to kind of like button up their story. Because we all would have been like, wait, what happened to them if we just didn't see them in Mexico? So yeah, the only ones that made it to Mexico out of that little trio situation was Nick and Hannah. And low-key, y'all, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, I honestly want to see what happens with Leo and Brittany. I think that would have been really funny. But I don't know, maybe we'll get to see them again later on in the season, possibly. All right, so the next couple is Garrett and Taylor. So this couple is actually really, really compatible. Garrett is a physicist, and he's like really into science. He automatically comes off as somebody that's very mature and very serious about finding a wife. He and Taylor are hitting it off really well. Taylor is also really into science. They both have like matching science tattoos, which was really cute. She is a policy advocate, and she used to be a college athlete, but then she got hurt, and so she had to stop playing. But I like the two of them. They both seem very chill, very normal compared to the trio that we just talked to, and they're getting along really well. So the only little hiccup that these two kind of had was, so on Love is Blind, they are not supposed to talk about their appearance or anything that could really give away their appearance, because the whole premise of the show is love is blind. So you're supposed to fall in love with the person without seeing them, which includes without knowing what they look like, even if they're just talking about it. So Taylor was one of the few people who wanted to really stick to that. And she was like not giving Garrett any hints about what she looked like. However, she does let him know that, you know, she might not be white. And she's like, you know, my mom has a beautiful name, but I'm not going to tell you what her name is because it'll give away my ethnicity. And he's like, wait, what? I honestly feel like this whole time he thought he was talking to a white woman. And so when he hears that that might not be the case, he's a little bit taken aback by it. And she's like, yeah, like I don't want to tell you because I don't want you to know, you know, my ethnicity. And he is very, you know, forthcoming about the fact that he's pretty much only dated white women. He's never dated anyone outside of his race, and he never even really considered the fact that she might not be the same race as him. And at first, you know, they kind of move on from it, but eventually he does come back to it, and he's like, I just feel like you're being kind of secretive by not trying to tell me what you look like. And I don't know if you're just being secretive or if you're just calculated. And this a little bit was a red flag to me, y'all, because I'm like, why is this such a huge hang up for you? Because honestly, it should not matter. You came on a show about love being blind. So if she doesn't want to tell you anything that would give away what she looks like, that's her prerogative, and that's honestly part of the show. So Garrett was, he wasn't giving me the best vibes from that, but he did kind of let it go eventually, and he was able to redeem himself. And they went on several more dates, and they eventually start saying that they love each other, and everything is moving pretty fast for them. He gets her flowers, asks her to be his girlfriend. She reads these love letters that her deceased grandparents had written to each other, which I thought was very sweet. It was a lot, I feel like, for somebody that you just met, but it was sweet. And he then pops the question and asks her to marry him. So now they're engaged, and for their reveal, I felt like it was pretty good. I was definitely watching him because of the whole, her being not white thing. She's an Asian woman. So I was trying to see like how his reaction was going to be. And I think he reacted pretty well to it. He seemed like he was really into her, attracted to her. She seemed the same way. They talk about how her mom is actually from Hong Kong. And she says, this is why I didn't want to tell you that, because I didn't want to give away my ethnicity. I hope that, that was okay. And he seems fine with it. Okay, so moving on to our next couple is Tim and Alex. So right off the bat, Tim is talking about how he used to be a dog in his past, but he's changed now and he's ready for a wife. And these two get into some pretty deep topics very quickly. And I'm just not really sure how I feel about it, but it got deep real quick. Tim talks about his two sisters who both passed. They're his older sisters, and he lost both of them. And he's just very, very vulnerable with Alex about it. Alex is a wonderful listener. She doesn't talk a whole lot about herself. We don't learn a whole lot about her in these first few episodes. And it's mainly because he talks a lot about himself. He talks a lot about his sisters and the way they grew up. He's very heavy. All the conversations are heavy. They're sad. He's crying and emotional. He has Alex crying. And I feel like because he was giving her so much heavy content, it was almost like emotional love bombing in a way. It was like she couldn't even have a lighthearted conversation with him because he kept bringing in all of these sad elements to their conversations. And that sad piece dominated their whole connection, essentially. And the only thing that we really found out about Alex is that she has two parents who both have MS, which is very interesting that both of them have that. But we don't even hear that much about it. Because again, we're mainly hearing about Tim and his grief over his sisters that he lost. So eventually, after like several dates, Tim does kind of apologize to Alex for their conversations always being so heavy. And he does acknowledge that a lot of that is on him because he brings up a lot of these sad topics. And so for this conversation, it's a lot lighter. They're laughing, they're playing around. And this was really when I was like, okay, well, I think I could see them having maybe a little bit of chemistry. But I still feel like their connection is mainly dominated by the fact that he was just so open and vulnerable with her. And I think it just made her feel like, wow, like he must really feel like he can open up to me. And she wanted to be there for him. But I'm just going to say it, y'all. Tim needs some counseling. He has a lot of grief, he has a lot of wounds that you can tell he has not fully worked through yet. And I think he just felt good getting those emotions off his chest and unloading them onto Alex. And even though this is very sweet and it's very nice that Alex was there and she was listening, she was not equipped in that moment to handle the weight of what he was telling her. And you could tell she was breaking down right along with him. And especially for a relationship where you're just meeting a person, it was just a lot for her to take in at that moment. So the next conversation that they have, Tim is still being super heavy, still laying it on very thick, and he ends up giving her his deceased sister's bracelet. And now, again, they're both crying. It's just very sad and very heavy. And just like I said about Taylor reading her deceased grandparents' love letters, I just felt like giving somebody that you just met your sister's bracelet was a lot. I'm like, what if y'all break up? What if this experience doesn't work out? Of course, you're gonna have to ask for that bracelet back. Like, that has a lot of sentimental value. And I could tell that Alex, even though she thought it was a sweet gesture, I could tell that she was a little uncomfortable with it because it was just a lot. It was definitely a lot. Later on, he ends up reading a letter that he wrote for her dad that's essentially asking for his daughter's hand in marriage, which was, again, heavy but sweet. And he also kind of starts mentioning something about like he's excited to marry her because he wants to give his parents another daughter. And although this was a very sweet and sentimental thing to say, I think this adds to what I was saying about I think he needs some therapy and some counseling, because you shouldn't be getting married to replace your sisters. And I think he is missing that relationship with his sisters, and he probably sees something in Alex that does make him think about his sisters or remind him of his sisters, and it's making him literally try to use Alex to help heal however he's feeling about the loss of his sisters. And that can be a very slippery slope, especially when you're entering a brand new relationship, because that's a lot of pressure. She will never be able to replace your sisters. And so if you're putting that type of pressure on her already, I could see how that could become very overwhelming. So just something for them to just be very mindful about. So he proposes and she says yes. They meet for the first time. I think it was cute. I didn't really get any bad vibes from them when they met. Of course, they're always going to be a little like awkward, a little uncomfortable. It's an awkward situation, but they seem like they like each other. So far, so good. So next we have Ashley and Tyler. So Tyler starts off by talking about how he usually picks people based on how they look. And so he's excited to try this experiment because it's something different for him. I know they kept saying that Nick was a smooth talker, but I was like, Tyler, to me, is the real smooth talker. He was saying all the right things about how he doesn't expect his wife to cook. He expects things to be 50-50. We both work, we both cook, we both put up the food, we both clean. You know, just kind of like saying all the right things. And something about it just felt like, why is he doing this? Like, it just felt like he was just doing a whole lot right off the bat. He talks about how he grew up struggling and how his mom was Serbian, I believe he said. And Basically, she was disowned by her family because she had a baby with somebody outside of her race. And so when her family cut her off, she essentially only had her grandmother. And when that grandmother passed away, he was very young. And he talks about feeling bad and guilty about not hugging his mom more during that time and being supportive. And he kind of breaks down and starts crying about it. And I would also say that he probably would benefit from some counseling. This is obviously something that is weighing very heavy on him, and it's probably something that he's never really talked about much before. I think he even mentioned to Ashley that he doesn't typically talk about this. But the fact that he feels that type of emotional responsibility and guilt for not hugging his mom and not telling his mom that he loves her more, even though he was just a child, says that that's something that he really needs to work through and forgive himself for that. So right away, I really, really liked Ashley. She just felt so warm, very down to earth, very genuine. And similar to Alex, she did a lot of listening. She was a really good listener. She let Tyler get out all of his feelings, and she was basically just there for him. She gave him a safe space for him to express his emotions. So even though their conversations got a little heavy at times, it wasn't the emotional bombing that Tim was doing to Alex. I felt like they had a much more balanced situation. Their conversations were heavy at certain times, but yet still had a lot of light, playful, flirtatious moments. So they keep going on dates. Tyler is very religious. He's writing prayers for her, which I thought was very sweet and thoughtful. Still was kind of side-eyeing him a little bit, like, is he trying to like paint himself out to be this perfect man just for something to be not quite so perfect later on? Spoiler alert, I was right. But we will get to that in a later video probably. But yeah, he eventually tells her that he feels very safe and protected with her, and they say they love each other. She tells him that she loves him too, and they end up getting engaged as well. When they meet in person for the first time, again, awkward, but in like a cute way. I could tell that they both liked what they saw, but she was definitely a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. But they had a cute first meeting. So finally we get to meet Monica and Steven. So Monica talks about how she's really attracted to flaws, and a lot of times she tries to like find people that have flaws. And then they kind of cut to Steven talking about how he used to be a cheater, and I'm like, oh. Well, there's your flaw right there, Monica. So on their date, she asks him about like his political views and about voting. And he says, you know, the first time that Trump ran for president, he voted for Trump, red flag. But he says, you know, it's because he just didn't like Hillary and he just thought she wasn't a good choice. And he admits that he wasn't very well informed. And the next go around, he did vote for Biden. So there's that. He starts talking about his race and says that he always thought that he was white and Italian because that's what his family had always said. But he ends up doing Ancestry.com and finds out that his dad is like 3/5 black or something like that. And to be honest, I could kind of tell because he looked like he had a little bit of black in him. Steven does, not his dad. I don't know what his dad looks like. But Steven looked like he had a little bit of ethnicity up in there. Monica tells him that she is Honduran and black. And he's like making these comments about, oh wow, yeah, you really are a mutt. And I was just like I understood where he was coming from. Like, okay, she's mixed, but like calling a human woman a mutt, like she's a dog, was very off-putting to me. I did not like that at all. And I thought that was a red flag, but she seemed to be okay with it. So, okay. They don't really show this couple a lot. Pretty much the first time they even showed them at all was like episode 3. And in episode 4, he says that he loves her and then he proposes. I couldn't really get a good feel about them because, again, they just did not show them a lot. But something about him rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. Like the little racial comments. I don't know. It was just a little odd. But she liked that, you know, once he found out his dad was 3/5 black, Steven went and did research about his dad's 3/5 blackness, and she thought that was really cute. So, I mean, hey, you like it, I love it. Monica and Steven meet up for the first time, and they hit it off very well. They seem to be very attracted to each other, very comfortable with each other. This was probably one of the least awkward first meetups. The only weird thing was that she kept whispering. And I was just kind of like, why is she whispering? Like, I'm assuming it was like an uncomfortability thing. Like, she just felt awkward a little bit with all the cameras and everything. And so she was like trying to whisper, but like, girl, we can hear everything you're saying. So you could just talk regular. But yeah, they seem really cute. He's being very playful with her. She asks him to do like a little twirl for her, and he actually does it, which I thought was cute. He does like a little pose. So I liked them once they met up in person. I thought it was cute. Okay, y'all. So this is our last little throuple, I'll call it. It's Marissa, Bohdan, and Ramses. So Marissa is the girl, and both Bohdan and Ramses like her, and she also likes both of them. So Marissa is in law school. She talks about how she used to be in the military. She goes on dates with both Bohdan and Ramses. Bohdan is also ex-military. He was born in Ukraine. And he talks about how during the Ukrainian war, he actually went to go fight in the war. And I thought that was like really sweet and touching. He talks about how, you know, he called his parents to let them know he was coming, and they were just like so proud of him for doing that. Overall, it seems like they hit it off very well, and it feels like they have a lot in common, especially with the military piece. She also goes on a date with Ramses, who is very open. He talks about how he was married for like 4.5 years to his high school sweetheart, but they didn't work out and they ended up getting a divorce. He says the main reason was that they were very religious, and then as he started to move away from religion, they kind of drifted apart and started going separate ways. He discusses how his dad was always very critical of him, and he never really felt like he was good enough. And his dad had a very specific way of how masculinity should be displayed. And Ramses just did not really agree with this. He had a more fluid idea about what masculinity is. You can tell that he has done a lot of inner work. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He's very comfortable in his masculinity. And unlike some of the other guys that I mentioned, I would probably say that Ramses might have gotten some therapy or counseling before, or either that or he just is a very intuitive, introspective person, and he's just done a lot of the work to work through those issues of what is masculinity and how do I present as a man in this society. Because that's not something that just comes. That's something that you have to kind of grow into, feeling comfortable, being able to express yourself in a way that is not typical or does not necessarily conform to social norms. So Marissa has a little choice on her hands. She has Bohdan, who is probably more similar to her, especially with the military background. He's what I would say is like the typical military guy, very brave, very typical masculine presenting. And Ramses, on the other hand, is very gentle, very sweet, very open. And I feel like he, in a lot of ways, is very different from her. So it's just a situation where, do you go with the person that you are more similar with, or do you go with the person that you're different from, but maybe they possess things that you don't possess? So ultimately, she does end up talking to Bohdan and letting him know that she's going to choose Ramses. And I feel like the main reason why she chose Ramses, y'all, was because of his like zodiac. He was a Cancer Leo, I believe. And that was like very, very significant to her. I'm not really into all that, so I don't know what that signified to her. But she really, really liked it. And I think in general, she just got along with Ramses a little bit more. And so she lets Bohdan know that she has chosen Ramses. And Bohdan takes it very well. Like, unlike, what's his name, Leo, Bohdan did not do the absolute most. He was just like, well, I'm happy for you. Like, I hope it works out. He just seems like a very nice, genuine guy. She lets Ramses know that, you know, she cut things off with Bohdan and she's choosing him. Of course, he's very happy about that. He writes her like a really sweet letter and they get engaged. So these two meet in person. And Marissa is so cute. She's like such a giggly, bubbly person. And she's just giggling and smiling. And you could tell she really is attracted to him. He's also very attracted to her. They both kind of have like the natural hair going on. And they have a very similar vibe. So I could see, even in person, like if they had seen each other, I could see them probably being attracted to each other and probably dating, even if they were outside of this show. So I love when that happens. So those are all the couples that end up going to Mexico for their little honeymoon. And this is kind of the first time that we really get to see them interact in person. And some of them I feel like got along pretty well, whereas other ones I felt like were a little bit awkward. I felt like Marissa and Ramses definitely got along very well, very quickly. Alex and Tim, I just wasn't really seeing it for them. Alex seemed very like irritated by Tim almost. Like she was very snippy with him early on. And he kind of kept doing the whole I'm a dog thing. I got that dog in me thing. And you could tell she did not like it. And I don't know if he just thought she was joking or what. But he just like kept saying it over and over again. Even though she clearly did not like that. Taylor and Garrett are getting along pretty well. They kind of talk about how, you know, in the real world, they are going to have to probably make some compromises because they're both very driven people, like especially like career-wise. And I liked that. I liked that they were having those conversations that were a little bit more deeper and not just like shallow surface level. Ashley and Tyler are getting along well also, and they talk about not letting outside opinions get to them. Mainly Tyler is saying this, And this was when I started to kind of feel like, is there something that he is like worried about? Like, why is he talking about these outside opinions? But stick a pin in that. Hannah and Nick were another couple that I felt like was a little bit on the rocks already. He's asking her questions about in the pods, like, did all the girls talk about him, and did they like him? Did they think he was a hot commodity in the pods? And he's talking about how he's excited to meet all the beautiful women. And it's just like, why are you saying this to her? Like, what made him feel like she would want to hear that? It was very weird. She talks about how she had to kind of warm up to how he looked because she typically goes for like athletic jocks, and he didn't really look like that. But she is slowly warming up to him. And then they have this situation at the beach where they have like these giant duck things. And for whatever reason, he really wanted to ride them. And she's telling him like, okay, if you ride those ducks, it's going to give me the ick. I'm not going to like it. And he kind of is like, oh, well. And he goes and rides them anyway. And this older lady like comes over and I want to ride too. Let's race, you know. And they ride the ducks together. And you can tell like Hannah got a little bit jealous. She didn't like it. And the woman's like, don't be jealous over there, honey. It was kind of a funny scene. But yeah, Hannah did not like it. She's like, it gave her the ick. And honestly, y'all, I just think she's already not that attracted to Nick. So it didn't take a whole lot for her to get the ick. Just saying. Monica and Steven are doing okay. Monica talks about how Steven is not someone that she would typically go for on the outside, which might not be the best sign, but I think he's kind of growing on her a little bit, which is good. He seems like he's very attracted to her and very, very into her, but I think she's still trying to kind of feel him out. All right, y'all. So that was episodes 1 through 5. And I was able to finish my entire wash and go while I talk to you guys. I hope you enjoyed hearing my first impressions about this season and about these couples. I will be back to talk about episodes 6 through 9. Probably, because that's really when the drama starts to kind of heat up, but I don't want to make this video super ridiculously long, so we're going to just stop it right here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to check out my other videos. I've talked about the ultimatum, and I've also done other counselor reacts videos, so make sure you guys check those out after this one. If you have not done so already, join the clique by subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye!